Hello, everyone. I've been feeling really compelled to create this video and maybe spread this message a little bit. It's something that's been on my mind, it's been on my heart, and I wanted to share it with you. As you might already know, the planet Jupiter is now in the sign of Cancer. It will remain there in Cancer for about a year. So 2025 into 2026. And I actually created a very thorough video about this cycle, what it means, how to align with it, what areas of life are going to be activated, which industries will receive that Jupiterian boost because Jupiter is about growth, it's about expansion. So if you are interested in watching this video, the link will be below in the comments. But I wanted today to highlight a very specific message, a very specific theme that's been calling to be voiced. Jupiter represents growth, right? It represents expansion, amplification. So that's the function of Jupiter. It is to make things bigger and it governs higher wisdom. So the wisdom that helps us evolve, the wisdom that helps us have access to more understanding, not just individually, but also as a collective. So when Jupiter travels through the sign of Cancer, through the deeply emotional and the nurturing waters of Cancer, to me, it invites us to expand through softness. That's the wisdom. That is the superpower that Cancer, the sign of Cancer, carries and expresses. It's really the superpower of softness. And we talk about the feminine wisdom. And when I say feminine wisdom, I'm speaking about beyond gender. If you're male, if you're female, um, if you're non-binary, it's about in many ways the wisdom of the mother, which is the wisdom of nurturing, the wisdom of protection, protecting, loving, creating safety for yourself, for others. It's the wisdom of patience. It's the wisdom of tenderness, mercy, forgiveness. And in many times in our world, this sort of wisdom, this type of wisdom is not always recognized. It's not even seen as wisdom, but it is these qualities, these energies that hold families together, right? That raise generations, that help to soften the hardness of the world. And we know it's a hard, difficult world out there. So Cancer teaches us how to care, not only for others, but also for ourselves, for the most tender, vulnerable parts of ourselves. We all have that. And especially right now, it's a time where there's many loud voices. There's violence, there's aggression, there is war. Our world is on fire in many ways, and it's dominated by the fast, the loud, the aggressive, that we can even speak about this aggressive masculine. And again, I'm not just talking about men, I'm talking about how energy expresses itself. And that's, Jupiter in Cancer reminds us that, especially right now, nurturing is truly revolutionary. And it reminds us that to make space for vulnerability is strength. To choose compassion is very courageous. To create belonging is divine work. I think we often forget, me included, that the act of receiving is just as sacred and just as important as giving. So allowing ourselves to receive help when we need it, to accept support, to open our arms for a hug, to soften and to care. It does not make us weaker. It actually makes us stronger. Because by receiving, what's happening is we are replenishing our energy, right? We're strengthening our emotional field and we are anchoring deeper into ourselves. And then from that grounded place, we can go forward and we can support others, even with more love, even with more resilience. So, and I believe that's how we're meant to move through life, together, not alone. So sometimes I'm stronger, that's when I show up for others. Sometimes I'm weaker and more vulnerable. So that's when I open myself to receive the help of others. And through this ebbs and flow, through this receiving, giving, we create a beautiful web, a living, breathing network of care that allows us to lean on each other, to rise together, to remember that we're not just meant to do it all on our own. So every act of receiving strengthens the whole. Isn't that so beautiful? And we are not taught that in school, right? Many times we're not seeing receiving as strength and not strengthening just ourselves, but the whole. So again, to me, that's the wisdom that a Jupiter in Cancer carries and brings an offer to us during this time, during this year. And like all signs, all zodiac signs and configurations, Jupiter in Cancer also has a shadow. And that's the power of astrology because through understanding these archetypes and the potentials and the shadows and the possibilities, we can consciously choose which way to go. We can choose how to embody these energies, how to express these energies, these themes in our lives. So what can happen with Jupiter in Cancer is that, Jupiter speaks about our belief systems, our convictions, what we believe to be true. We all have that. We all have ideologies. We all have convictions. It doesn't necessarily have to be religious or spiritual or political. It can be, I believe that, waking up early in the morning is the best way to start my day. That's a belief, right? So that belief systems are Jupiterian by nature. That's Jupiter's territory. What can happen with Jupiter in Cancer is that it's an energy that can become so identified, so connected, so attached to the familiarity, what feels familiar. So that's my people, my group, my home, my country, my family, my beliefs. So anything and anyone that's outside of that, sphere becomes threatening. So anything or anyone who's foreign, who's strange, who's different, who thinks differently than me. So those who are not like me, for whatever reason, maybe because they think differently, maybe because they have different political views, maybe because they speak different languages, maybe they look different, maybe the color of their skin is different than mine, or they were raised differently, or they have a different religious, spiritual point of view. Like that becomes that person, that idea, that thing automatically becomes an outsider. So what Jupiter in Cancer can do instead of building bridges, it can create borders, closed borders. And again, Jupiter amplifies, right? Wherever Jupiter is, it amplifies um, wherever it is. So it can really deepen these borders, these walls, these lines of separation. So those divisions grow wider. Let's not do that. The invitation now is let love expand beyond the borders. Let nurturing be the force beyond our comfort zones. And let softness, here's that word again, let softness become the bridge that connects us, not a wall that closes us. Okay? We can consciously create a culture of inclusion, of belonging. And that's true wisdom. That is the true wisdom of Jupiter in Cancer, which is the feminine wisdom, right? And that wisdom is we are one family. We come from the same source. We're going back to the same source. We are one species. We have one human heart. It beats the same way. It needs the same thing. So there's so many, we all have so many more things in common than things that separate us. And so, yes, in this moment of deep transformation that we're going through, and violence and war and rage and terrible, terrible, terrible things happening out there or in our lives with closed ones, that softness, that gentle strength, open hearts, and it might be the most powerful force here on this planet. And this does not have to show up as some grand act unless maybe you are in a position to do that, to show up in that capacity if that's part of your calling. But it can be something as simple but as sacred as a hug, as listening with presence, or checking in with someone who's going through a hard time. It's about I believe it's about offering support in small ways, in whatever ways that we can. And of course, with others in your life, family, friends, strangers, but also with yourself. And that is about making space for your emotions, taking a pause when you need it, giving your body, your nervous system time to rest and recover, and practice softness with you and care, and again from the inside out. um, Accepting where you are, accepting that you're not perfect. There's one phrase that I absolutely love that says, we're all masterpieces. We're perfect already. And at the same time, we are a work in progress. So we're always becoming more. We're always polishing, fixing, um, improving. So I think that's the name of the game. And by doing that, I think by showing up for ourselves in that capacity, and then for others through small acts, that's how it spreads. One small, tender act at a time, you know, one heart at a time until hopefully the whole world feels it. So that is my message for today. I hope this is helpful. I hope this resonates. I hope this inspires you. I hope Jupiter in Cancer inspires you to the highest possible expression, which is again the force of the wisdom and the force of love that we all carry just by having a heart. Just by having a human heart, we already carry that. So it is about becoming conscious of it, activating it, and then embodying that, expressing that in whatever way, shape, or form you're able to. If you are interested in learning more about the whole Jupiter in Cancer cycle, please check out the link below. And as always, if you like this video, please give me the thumbs up, subscribe to my channel, and I will hopefully see you next time in another video.